Hello, and welcome back to Skep's Unnamed Deck Showcase. I apologize for the leave of absence I took from this show, but the format is getting a little stale for me. As much as I love pulling off the Orchest combo, I must admit I don't like winning games simply because my opponent failed to draw Cosmic Cyclone. Additionally, the other top decks of the format, Rocket, Speedroid, and yes, Pendulum, Magician, Odd Eyes, also feel very similar. They all have very powerful in-engine strategies that lose immediately if your opponent draws the Cosmic Cyclone for your back row or the Book of Moon for your monster. Not a very interesting format when the best card in literally every deck is the Book of Moon and Cosmic Cyclone, and not the cards in your linear strategy. That being said, I am very excited to be playing one of my favorite decks from the TCG of all time. I am, of course, talking about the series of cards you see on the screen, Pendulum Magician. So here we are with the deck, and as you can see, we really are playing as little Odd Eyes as possible. Only the one copy mandatory for our skill, because we don't want to draw it. I don't believe in playing the second copy, so you can always send one from the deck, because this deck is fine playing with it in hand, and I would like to minimize my chances of drawing Odd Eyes. Pendulum Dragon as often as possible, and I've used the space in which I would play a second copy to max out on my tech options, which of course, as I mentioned, are the most important cards to be playing this format. To begin with our list, we are playing the mandatory copy of Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon for our skill, Raging Pendulum. Another skill that plays the deck for you. At the beginning of the duel, add Pendulum Zones to your field, and the following skill can only be used once per duel by revealing one Odd Eyes Raging and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon from your extra deck if you have two Performapal Magician or Odd Eyes cards in your Pendulum Zone. This is why I'm playing the ratios I am. Basically, every hand, other than the hands you draw 3 Book of Moon or Cosmic, get you to this condition. Add one of the 3 eligible Performapal monsters below with different names from outside of your deck to your hand at random, and add one Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and one Magician Pendulum monster from your hand or deck to the extra deck. During this duel, you can treat Xyz monsters you control as level 7 monsters when Xyz summoning Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. Basically, since every combination of 2 cards in this deck gets us to a set of scales, you can either hard draw a 2 and an 8, or you can draw Wisdom Eye plus any other scale, or 2 Wisdom Eye or Pendulum Call. You will always be able to activate that effect, meaning this deck will at minimum set up Dweller, or Roach, or Volfurnages, the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider, as your turn 1 board, and more often than not, you'll be able to set up them both. This is a new horizon for Duel Links as far as I've been playing the game and can see. This deck does not have its own boss monster on turn 1 because none of the Odd Eyes monsters do anything at quick speed, at least not in Duel Links yet. We're making a generic board of Dweller and Volo, or Roach and Volo, or one of those 3 if we do not open an extender. To that end, we are supplementing our 1 copy of Odd Eyes with 2 copies of Oath Dragon Magician, 3 copies of the best card in the deck, Wisdom Eye Magician. I'll speak about this one at the end. 2 copies of Performapal Skull Crobat Joker. This card is the Rhoda. Normal summon it, add a Magician to your hand. Oath Dragon Magician, when you have a Pendulum or Odd Eyes monster. If you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can add a Magician or Odd Eyes Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. This is a perfect copy, a perfect combo. This is a perfect combo with Wisdom Eye Magician. You scale Wisdom Eye and Oath, pop Wisdom Eye to set your 8 scale, and bring the Wisdom Eye back to your hand with Oath. Wisdom, of course, combos with itself. If you have 2 Wisdom Eyes, you can scale both of them, pop 1 for the 2, pop 1 for the 8, and you're off to the races. And, of course, Performapal Skull Crobat Joker searches any piece of that combo you're missing. 2 copies of Dragon Pit Magician, the best 8 scale in the game. I would consider playing 3 of it, honestly, but I just don't have space for it. 1 copy of the Tuner Monster, Noble Dragon Magician, so we can synchro it with our copy of Wisdom Eye Magician or any of the random level 4 Odd Eyes monsters we get to make our Odd Eyes Meteor Burst to make rank 7s with our scales. So those are the monsters, and onto the spells. We're playing our tech choices of Book of Moon because this deck loses going second if they interrupt your copy of Raging, or they stop your Volfurnages, or they Floodgate Trap Hole, or rather they negate your starter monster. Obviously, Floodgate Trap Hole is what our next card is for. Cosmic Cyclone. Both of these, I think, are basically mandatory to be playing this format. I do not want to lose to Orchestrated Release, and I do not want to lose to Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, or the copy of Roach they make in Rockets. Of course, since Void Ogre Dragon is once per turn, you can bait it out with Book of Moon as well, so they can't stop it with any of your other magicians. Another tech you might consider is Dragon Pit Magician, the counterpart to Pulse. I've played multiple games against Pendulum Magician with this deck in which they scaled Pit, scaled another magician, and they baited out my Volfernages because if, of course, I did not pop their Pit, they would get to discard a card and destroy my Volfernages. So that is a good out to special summon monsters, and it is searchable by our last card, Pendulum Call. Pendulum Call allows you to discard one card, any card, add 2 Magician Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your hand until the end of your opponent's next turn after this card resolves. Magician cards in your Pendulum zones can't be destroyed by card effects, and you can only activate this effect activate this card once per turn, and you cannot activate this card if you activate a Magician Monster's Pendulum effect this turn. People say this is a Nombo with Wisdom Eye Magician. However, this is not true. You can always just simply discard Wisdom Eye Magician or use it in your hand as Pendulum Summon fodder. In hands in which you open Wisdom Eye plus Pendulum Call, you've made your rank 4 and rank 7 anyway, without needing Wisdom Eye's Pendulum effect in the first place. I do not see any reason not to max out on both of these cards for consistency. Your deck lives and dies by both its inboard and ability to play through Disruption into making Raging Dragon going second, so you need as high a chance as possible to do that. I believe playing 3 Wisdom Eye and Pendulum Call is your ticket to that consistency. Onto the extra deck. I've spoken about our turn 1 options, Steel Swarm Roach, Abyss Dweller, and Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. I'm also playing a second rank 7 in Big Eye as non-destruction removal for the copy of Ding, but there are other cards you can play as well. I just don't want to be playing the copy of Draco Sack in this deck, or I was considering playing the Dark Rank 7 Dragon, Dark Armed, as another piece to overlay into Odd Eye's Raging Dragon. That would be something else you can consider, but this is a flex spot. I don't think I ever made any other rank 7s, so I would consider actually cutting this for Giant Hand, so you can make Blind, because there are, of course, decks where going first, you don't want to make Roach or Abyss Dweller, so that's something I would consider as well. Our going second, rank 4's Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon is, of course, mandatory to play for the skill. And my favorite card in the extra deck, Queen Dragon Jin. This is a perfect extender for you to be able to play through your opponent's Steel Swarm Roach. If you Pendulum summon 2 4s and a 7 and then negate your Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon summon, you can overlay into Queen Dragon Jin, revive that Odd Eyes, because I think I've seen this in a replay that you'll see later. Because you negate the summon, they go to the graveyard because they weren't considered on the field. And Pendulum monsters only go to the extra deck if they're destroyed on the field. When the summon is negated, they are not technically on the field, meaning once destroyed, they will go to the graveyard. Of course, Odd Eye's Raging Dragon, the focal point and OTK machine this deck has access to. There are times you win the game without making it, and there are times you win the game with making it. So obviously, you need to play it to activate the skill in the first place, so nothing to really argue about there. And of course, Odd Eye's Meteor Burst Dragon, the only synchro monster I really felt like playing. Again, I think you have exactly one flex spot in the extra deck, and I would rather play another utility going first rank 4 monster because this deck already has so much it can do going second. But if you want to play something like Black Rose Dragon to pop the field after you've Pendulum called, you can do that, and you can also make the level 11 Trishula synchro. This is all I really want to play. It sets up your rank 7s, and it stops Kiteroid. That's all there really is to say with the deck. Let's check out some replays at long last. All right, first game here is going to be a mirror match against Yuto, in which we go first. So we're going to show you how the combo plays out against itself. They're going to Raging Pendulum, and we are going to do the same. Going to put those Pendulum scales on our side of the field and draw our opening hand. We have opened Pendulum Call plus another Magician, so that is full combo. Discarding the card we don't need to add our 2 Magicians to our hand. We're going to scale our 2 and our 8. Activate our skill, revealing the mandatory cards from our extra deck, to send a Wisdom Eye and an Odd Eyes to our extra deck, add Wisdom Eye back to hand, and just off of that combination, we now have 2 7s and 2 4s. Since we know we're against Pendulum Magician, the best card to make going first is Roach, so we're going to do that, make a copy of Steel Swarm Roach, and then overlay for Volfernages, and then we're going to set our Book of Moon as an additional piece of interruption. Our opponent opens quite well. They're going to scale Dragon Pulse Magician, activate Wisdom Eye. That will bait out our Volfernages. This is what I was talking about in Deck Edit, in which if they have the Dragon Pit, they can bait out your Volfernages or pop any other problem monsters. Our card you might consider running, but I just didn't have space for it. They're going to activate Wisdom Eye Magician to put that Oath Dragon into their deck. Oath Dragon into their scale, rather, revealing 2 of their mandatory dragons in the extra deck to add a free card to their hand. Add Wisdom Eye Magician back to their hand, and they're going to activate Pit, and we will activate Book of Moon. They're just all loaded up on 7s, and it's just another reason why you'd want to be playing more 4s. They're going to Pendulum Summon 2 copies of Odd Eyes, and we are going to negate both of them, and that's going to end their turn. If my opponent instead discarded Odd Eyes to the graveyard, they'd be able to revive it with Queen Dragon Djinn. If they were playing a better Magician than Dragon Caller, they could have overlaid for Queen Dragon Djinn, revived Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, made Raging, and won the game. I really think you want to be playing Queen Dragon Djinn in this deck. We're going to draw the best card in our deck for turn, and that, I mean, it was already the end of the game, but we are going to Pendulum Summon out our level 1, make the copy of Queen Dragon Djinn so we can keep Volfernagus on the field. We are going to activate it, targeting Odd Eyes, and then we're going to overlay for Raging, and that's the end of the game, and our opponent picks up their ball and goes home. Alrighty, game 2 here is going to be a real bleeder up against a Velian Crowler in which we absolutely brick. I told you the situation in which we brick is when we draw 3 Book of Moons or Cosmic, and what do you know? We drew 4 Book of Moons or Cosmic. So we are going to just do absolutely nothing and try not to die. Can you guess what we draw for turn? They're going to activate Ancient Gear Tank. Luckily, our opponent is not a real player. We draw Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, so we're going to activate that in the scale, blow it up, which turns off our skill, you would think, and then we're going to set 3 cards and pass. They're going to Ancient Gear Fortress. I'm going to Cosmic Cyclone that in response, so they can't do anything. They're going to summon Hunting Hound, burn me for 300, attack me. We're going to Book of Moon, which will destroy that and burn me for 600. We have exactly enough life points to survive this, but our last Cosmic is offline, and we draw Dragon Pit Magician for turn. We're going to pop the Wisdom Eye, activate the effect of Odd Eyes or Oath Dragon to add Odd Eyes to our hand, which turns on our skill. Very funny. We're going to reveal the cards in our extra deck to put Coin Dragon in our extra deck and add a Magician to our extra deck as well. We're going to Pendulum Summon 2, 1, 2, and we're just going to attack with Odd Eyes, giving it some attack and preventing it from being destroyed by card effects. They're going to Enemy Controller. Very weird. They're going to set a card and pass. I'm very worried about that, but I can't do anything about it. Oh, yes, I can, actually. I'm going to activate the effect of our scale to pop that new card. It wasn't anything I needed to be worried about. And we're going to activate Oath Dragon to put Wisdom Eye back in our hand and win the game. What a whack game. Game 2 here, going to be up against a Maximilian Pegasus, playing Relinquished, and this is going to showcase why I think maxing out on staples is probably a good thing. We draw exactly what we need, 2 Cosmic Cyclones, and our full combo. They're going to set a Polymerization with the skill, and they're going to add a Relinquished to their hand so they can make Millennium Eyes Restrict, or rather Thousand Eyes Restrict, because, of course, Millennium Eyes or Thousand Eyes Idol is not an effect monster. They're going to set a card and pass. We're going to Cosmic Cyclone that. And luckily we draw Book of Moon because that happens to be Relinquished Fusion. They're going to make a copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict, and we are going to Book of Moon that immediately before blowing them out into the sun. What a great deck this is. I can see why Mechlord likes it so much. We are going to activate Pendulum Call, adding 2 cards to their hand. This is a great game to showcase how Wisdom Eye is not a nombo with Pendulum Call because it allows us to fully combo. We're going to activate Raging Pendulum, going to put 2 level 7s in our extra deck, add 1 back to our hand. This makes us a rank 7, a rank 4, and a spare level 4 beater on our side of the field. Very good stuff. We're going to make Queen Dragon Djinn. Then we're going to detach 2 materials because we're overlaying 2 monsters into Odd Eyes Raging Dragon and killing our opponent with the big man. Finally getting to show it off this video. Alrighty, last minute edition here, going to be up against Speedroids, the breakout deck from the new mini box. Let's see how it plays through our hate. Going second, we are going to, of course, activate Raging Pendulum. They're going to activate Clear Wing Acceleration. We're going to draw a very good opening hand. We're going to normal summon Skull Crobat Joker, grab Oath Dragon, activate Pendulum Call, discarding Cosmic for 2 Magicians. I make a misplay here. I wanted Noble Dragon for future plays to make a rank 7. I should have just got a level 4, so I'd have the ability to make Queen Dragon Djinn on follow-up if my board was broken. We are going to go through the motions here, get our level 7 to hand, add our free level 4, which is why I didn't add a level 4 to my hand because the skill guaranteed me a rank 4 since I opened Joker. We're going to make Volfernages and Steel Swarm Roach, pass it over to our opponent, who will lose the game if they do not draw the Unsearchable out. What do you know? There it is. They're going to activate Forbidden Chalice on Roach, activate Cosmic Cyclone on Oath Dragon Magician, discard Win for Terror Top. So they've basically guaranteed that they will win the game here. They're going to send Din Din Daiko Duke to the graveyard. Speedroid Takatomborg is going to be added to their hand. They're going to special Takatomborg tribute for whoever the hell this guy is, Mudoshi Piper. They're going to reveal Double Yo-Yo, and that's just it. The game is over. There's nothing one Volfernages can do. We're going to allow them to make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon BM a little bit by targeting them with Volfernages, let them negate, and we're just going to pick up our cards and try again next time. Alrighty, next game here is going to be up against Boogeyman of the format Orchest. We are going to be going second, so much like our opponent had to draw the out for our Roach, we're going to see if we can't draw the out for their release. They're going to normal summon Recycler, banish Harp after sending it to the graveyard. Then they're going to summon Nightmare by banishing Harp, make Galatea the Orchest Automaton, activate Orchest Nightmare to send the World Wand. You know how this works. Banish the World Wand for the Harp Horror, activate Galatea to shuffle back the Nightmare. Then they're going to set Orchestrated Release from their deck. Then make Dingirsu Orchest of the Evening Star and attach World Wand to it as material. Set 2 cards and pass. Well, we've opened no Cosmic Cyclone, so we're actually going to see if our deck can't do it here. They're going to activate Cosmic Cyclone on our second copy of Wisdom Eye. We're going to scale Oath Dragon. Luckily, our opening hand was very good. They activate Release here. I think that's a little bit early, but I could be wrong. They're going to activate Dragon Pit Magician. We're going to activate Raging Pendulum to reveal, of course, our required cards. Then we're going to send 2 cards to our extra deck, activate Wisdom Eye Magician to destroy itself, sending Oath Dragon Magician, activating Oath Dragon Magician to bring Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon to our hand. We're going to discard it, and they are going to let us win the game and scoop it up. That set card was Compulse, so we did, of course, make Queen Dragon Jin in this instance, which would have revived Odd Eyes to make Odd Eyes Raging Dragon to push for lethal. That's why you play Queen Dragon Jin, folks. A little bit frustrated they scoop before I could show it off, but that's the principle behind playing Queen Dragon Jin. It turns boards like that into lethal, but of course you could also just make Dweller, but Dweller doesn't hit over Ding. That is the last replay. So we're back with the deck, and it performed about as well as could be expected. You can't really complain about losing to the Forbidden Chalice. Everyone's playing it, or Book of Moon, so you're going to take L's to those cards some number of times, and I don't think it's worth playing Forbidden Lance over Cosmic because Orchestrated Release is a hell of a card. Overall, I think the deck is a very powerful and consistent contender, and I do expect the skill to get nerfed in the near future. So if you want to play the deck, I recommend getting your rotations in with it while you can, but I'm sure post-nerf it'll just restrict the kind of deck building restrictions you can have, so you just can't play the 5 Orchest cards in it. In which case, if that's all it does, this deck will still be just fine, because as you can see, we are only playing archetypal cards. I can't imagine they would nerf the main deck consistency of this deck. Rather, they might take away the deck's ability to make good going first rank 4s like Roach and Dweller, in which case the deck is basically dead. So, in either case, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're having fun playing Pendulum Magicians, but of course I understand if you're not. So that's that. I do hope you enjoyed watching the video because it was nice to get back into the swing of making them. If you did enjoy the video, please do consider checking out the Twitch channel. I will be hosting a subathon and donathon starting on Saturday the 17th, and I'd really like it if people could show up and show some support or just hang out. Of course, that would be wonderful to see some new folks down at the stream. If you'd like to see different decks played live, I do stream them live on Twitch, and of course, if you'd like to dictate what deck I play, I will be taking subs and donations for dictating the deck I play, and if we do hit a certain donation goal, I will be playing Magical Muskets to King of Games, and anyone who's been following my channel for a while knows how much I love that deck. So if you'd like to make that happen, maybe consider checking out the Twitch and participating in the Donathon. I would really appreciate it. Goodbye.